To save us some time, I've gone ahead and pasted in the remaining loads for our data model. So I have the president questions, and then down here I pasted the code in for the answers. And we're just going to do the president category because the pattern is the same for all the others. And I'll go through what these build errors mean here in a little bit. So if we go back, we have our load categories that we did earlier, and then we go through and the code is the same for these. So we're just going through, we're now loading the questions entity and not the categories. And then we have the question, whatever that is going to be. And then we do the correct answer. So we give it an ID. So there's an association to the correct answer. This is the question's particular unique ID, like what we did with the categories. And then we want to know what is the category that it's in. So we add that integer here. And then the answer choices that it can have, we give it 4 in this case. There is just a string, they're comma separated. So this allows us to mix and match different kinds of answers. So you can see here, this one is using 2, 3, 4, 5, and this one's using 1, 3, 4, 5. And one of the correct answers needs to be in this group. So you can see the correct answer is 5. We have 5 here. This one, the correct answer is 2. We have 2 here. And I put the actual president, the correct answer, right above the question. So that way it's a little bit easier, because when you just have these digits, it can be difficult to know, all right, what is the correct answer for that question? And then we have our save. So it's really the same pattern that we use with the categories. Here's the load president. So I have the correct, the associated question here, and then the actual question. So again, just a little bit more information to make this helpful. Then the question ID again here. Inside of comments, you probably don't need this comment here, since you, let's see, you can put the question ID and then the actual question above each of these. And then here's our save. So it's all just following the same pattern. Now back to the compilation errors, it's saying we don't have this question, which is actually, or this question attribute, that's actually what the question text goes into. And if we go into our data model, we look at questions and it's not there. So we want to add that. We want question, it's going to be a string like that. All right, so if we build this, and well, actually we look inside of our questions class, we don't have that here. So we're going to need to remove this, all the 2 question classes. So I'll just delete those. Yes, move to trash, get them completely out. And while I'm here, I'm going to move these down because they're auto-generated classes. I'm going to move them right below the data model. So this is kind of all grouped now. And then what I can do is generate another class for questions. And we should then have the question, this one here, inside of that class. So let's see if I go up to editor, create NSObject subclass. And that's fine. We want it for questions. Next, and create. All right, so if we look in here, we should see our question. There it is. And I'm going to drag these down here like that. And now I'm going to try and compile, since we have that question attribute, see if we can get a good build here. All right, and we do. So I believe at this point the core data manager probably has everything that we're going to want to put in there. So to get the initial table view loading, so the category view with the correct data that we want out of our data model, we're going to go back into our view controller and scroll down into the table view methods, and we're going to work right here particularly. So we have just kind of filler text going on here. We can go ahead and start adding actual text in this case. So the first thing I'm going to do is get a category, and I'm just going to create this constant here, and we're going to do categories, and we're going to pull out the associated index. So it's going to be an index path row. So now we've got a category, and let's see, we have a cell image. We can, I think these are pulling in correct, but we don't want this hard coded. We want to go ahead and add the correct image at this point. So I can do category, image name, and the top level we're going to have category and category name. Let's see, for the bottom, we're going to go ahead. We can put a count in this case, but I'm going to go ahead and try this now, make sure everything is loading, and I think we've got everything we need. Let's see, what is the issue here? Yes, go ahead and unwrap and play. All right, so we get a SIGBART right off of, or SIGART right off of the bat here. So let's see, the reason the model store incompatible. So, okay, this message here, you're probably going to see it as you work with core data, is because the database model that was initially deployed is no longer compatible with the updated model. So we added that question attribute. So what we can do in this case is bring up the simulator and clean it out. So here we can go to simulator, reset content and settings. That'll delete the database and start as fresh. So now we'll deploy a fresh copy of our updated database, and that should remove this error. At least we're hoping that's what will happen. And this is done booting, so I am going to go ahead and run this. It may take a little bit longer to load up initially because it's got to redeploy the app and everything. And let's see here. So we have our breakpoint. I'm going to remove it, and we can go ahead and go. All right, so there it is. Now we're getting everything in here. It looks like we don't have our president's image. Let's see what that is. It's just president without the S. So we put an S on ours when we loaded it. And if we go to our core data here, let's see. Look at the image right there. It's got an S. Everything else had an S. So what we can do is just change. I think we can change this name to that. And hopefully now it will load, because that's a lot easier than changing it in the data load, because then we'd have to redeploy it to get the new data out. I mean, we'd have to reset the simulator again to get the new data out there. So there it is. There's our president's icon, and everything's looking really good here. And for these small labels, what we can do eventually is just add the count of items in the category, so the count of questions in that category. Next, what we're going to do is, when you click on a cell, we want to make sure we segue here with the proper set of questions, and we'll start working on the ability to roll over to the next question and also display the answers down here on these buttons.